So I think we're finally getting there with this toilet. It's been a long process. Yeah, it was quite a fascinating whole topic for me. Beyond just this is the bus, by the way. Beyond just having a toilet on a bus, being on a bus, obviously you can't flush it, or you can't have a flushing toilet really because of all the water that's needed. So both the water that you flush and wherever the flushed water goes, it would take up a lot of space and all that. So you otherwise get chemical toilets, and I don't like the whole chemical thing at all. Just generally in life, trying to avoid chemicals, trying to kind of leave as little of a messy impact as possible. And yeah, I've been interested in the whole composting toilet for a long time, yet often the composting toilets that I've found or witnessed or used in the past can be quite smelly, quite messy, quite, I don't know, just not practical, you know. Sometimes they say with compost toilets you need to pee separately somewhere else outside or something, and then only do your number twos in the composting toilet. And I don't know, for me that always seems a bit challenging to get right. So if you tried it, you might know what I mean. I don't need to say any more now. So yeah, then I was doing a little bit of research, this was years ago, of how to do this, and I came across this concept of what they called a urine diverting toilet. So essentially the idea is that the urine goes somewhere else and the solids go somewhere else, so they're separate. And what that does essentially is it gives the solids the opportunity to actually dry out, because apparently the solids are actually only smelly and only dangerous, well, can be dangerous, when they're moist, when they're wet. So if you can keep them dry or dry them out and keep them dry, apparently they become completely, what's the word, sterile. I don't know if that's the word, but in other words, not harmful, and in fact can be used very safely then for compost. Maybe not edibles, but that's probably more of a mind block story than the practicality. But anyway, you know, it could actually be used as a resource, rather than mixing it with chemicals, or rather than flushing it away with liters of water. So that's kind of been the concept. And then the urine, that can be very useful. I think you mix it 20 to 1, so in other words 20 liters of water to 1 liter of urine, and that's really good for plants and all. So again, it's like actually this waste product is more a resource than a waste. So that's kind of where this whole idea started from. And then also in time to be able to expand this idea into not just this bus, but maybe, you know, other camper vans and stuff, would need to make a simpler version, you'll see now in time, like a more modular thing. But also for household sort of applications. I mean, the amount of water that's drinking water often, like in Cape Town, it's nearly all drinking water that gets flushed down, and it's between, I'd say 10, 15 liters of water, somewhere there, of fresh drinking water that gets flushed down the toilet every time you go to the loo. It's craziness. And then you're flushing, you know, the solids and the urine down, which are actually amazing resources for, again, compost and things. So it's bigger than just the bus and the concept for me, or the question. And I think that's been a big part of what's made me really follow through on this toilet project, because I'm very interested in different ways of living, how we can live more sustainably. And that's a word that's very kind of overused, I find, these days, but in other words, with less of an impact, and how we can use these things that we call waste products as resources in the lives we live instead. So anyway, there's a bit of an introduction to where the whole toilet concept started. Yeah, you get certain products, especially overseas in the States, more in America, yeah, that you can get this kind of a toilet, off the shelf, but here in South Africa, not such a thing. It's also very expensive. And again, I don't know, I seem to have this pattern of loving to do things myself and figuring them out, although I'm getting a bit over it sometimes because I go too deep down these rabbit holes, and only years later do I end up with a toilet. So yeah, here are some of the drawings that I did on Fusion 360. Got the rough layout of the bus and the wheel arch and started drawing up the toilet itself. I think this is one of the first things I did on Fusion 360, which is quite typical of me, of sort of diving straight into the deep end. But yeah, after hours of hacking around, got something decent. And I had a company in Cape Town print it on a big Ender printer. I don't know which number, probably a 5 or a 7 or whatever the biggest ones are. And yeah, that's it. That's all the supports that we've taken off, and this is what came out. The toilet bowl itself. Again, those were all the supports. Yeah, it was quite a cool feeling. I'd never really printed or had things printed really, but to come up with something that size and then next thing you know it's in the physical form. Anyway, yeah, then cleaned it up a bit with a bit of sanding and painting, and you can see a little wooden frame that we made around it that fits in over the arch, and the tank in the background, that's the toilet tank in the previous shot. That's the toilet in its place with the original grid system, but all very rough. This was a little drill press that I made up from a battery drill. That's the original shifting rake thing, and that's again the grid thing, but all of that was tossed. And that's kind of, yeah, it all together as I thought it would be, but this is the toilet bowl, the original drawing of it, or the printed version of the original drawing. And this is the sort of urine diverting part. If you look on the inside there, that's where the solids are meant to go, and that's where the urine's meant to go. But I just realized, kind of looking at it, that when it's in the physical printed form, it's hard to see really on Fusion or any version of software on the screen. But there's not really enough of a sort of funnel shape there, so I hacked my way through Fusion and managed to draw up a slightly bigger funnel shape. You can see the actual outlet hole's a bit bigger than that one, and also hard to see on the camera as well, but it's a lot deeper. So now it's a case of, well, the way I drew it was, that's kind of meant to fit there. I cut a section on the drawing, I cut a cube out of this at whatever height, I think that height. And so this, if I cut that same section out of here, this should just kind of go in there like that. So yeah, it's a case of marking this properly and yeah, cutting it out and then gluing this back in. I'm also thinking I'm going to change some of this grid system. I think I made it, as I often do, over complicated, too complicated. I'm going to try something simpler there, but it's actually more on the piece that bolts onto this, but we'll see that in time. So yeah, this is me making up a little gizmo to mark the height, so I knew where to cut the toilet bowl to put in the new funnel piece. And this is gluing the new funnel piece in. Okay, so this is the new, I don't know, funnel part of the toilet. And this white piece here that was printed and glued it on and put some body filler in. A whole long story. Body filler's not going off and and taking it off and starting over. I don't know. Body filler is one of my favorites. Puns intended. Also that whole perfectionist thing of mine, getting it perfect, whatever that word is. But anyway, there it is. I'm going to paint it inside. Yeah, and then I had that very complicated idea of a way of, yeah, the solids landing in there and then on a flat plate under there. I think I've shown in previous video. So I'm going to try and make this simpler now because that was just too complicated. So this is actually just a single ramp kind of from the back of the bowl there down. There you can kind of see this is just the ramp angle, and I think that angle is going to be enough to get the solids to go down and into the tank under here. So I've just used this little tack method of using bits of masonite with a glue gun to hold that angle in, and yeah, when I take it all out now, I'll be able to figure out what that angle is. So this is me making up a little template of the side profile that lines up with the angle of that orange ramp plate. And with this template, I'm going to then cut out the bits of fiberglass. You'll see that now. Yeah, this is me cutting out the side profiles from those templates and then fiberglassing it all together. It's crazy watching this back and realizing that these two sped up sections, the one previous and this one now, were sped up 20 times. So yeah, it seems quite quick watching it now, but yo, this all took a lot of time. This perspective of time has been a very interesting thing, doing this whole video editing thing, and also just the time it takes to edit and edit down and edit down and edit down. But yeah, on this planet, time is all we really have, hey? So it's what we decide to do with it. So this is the bathroom. I've also been doing quite a bit of work just generally on the whole bathroom. Again, I was gonna create a new ceiling and all this because this is the fiberglass roof of the bus and these are the metal frames, and I might have some footage that I can pop in here of what it was like But essentially this was raw fiberglass and metal frames and rusty, slightly rusty, and other primers and all. So I was going to put a whole new ceiling in, and again I just thought, why am I doing this? So I just filled the gaps with polyurethane sealant and put in a few little wooden boards. That one I still got to seal in, and painted the whole lot white, and I think it's fine for now. That's the little shower board that's going to get screwed in here. I've got some black sealant tape, whatever you call that, rubber tape to seal it, so I'm just going to screw it so that I can take it off. Yeah, so that's that. And this is the toilet. I've got a little cover at the back there, a cupboard, I mean. Still need to do its cover. And this is the toilet seat, but I'm just going to take this off for now. And here we have the almighty, hopefully urine diverting toilet. So essentially, yeah, the diverting part of it is the front piece there. So the solids will go down there. The urine, this is a bit like a funnel, might be quite hard to see from here. But I could show you in the CAD drawing. Yeah. So the solid liquid, the urine, the liquids will go down there. I've made this as a bit of a trap, like a water trap on a sink. I'm just playing around with this concept because how to stop the urine the smell coming into the toilet. So filling this with oil or something, cooking oil or something like that. Anyway, that'll be the outlet there. At the moment it just goes straight out the bus, but in time I might put a little tank over there. I'm getting myself full of polyurethane. I just glued this not so long ago. Might put a little tank outside, but for now it's just going outside. And then the solids essentially, as I said, go in there, down through here, and under here there's a tank. And then I've 3D printed this little fitting here. These 3D printers are awesome. And so this pipe goes on here, and essentially this is an extractor for the tank. So the idea is that it extracts any smells and moisture out of the tank, so the tank's really able to sort of dry out. I might in time put a heater element into the tank, but for now I'm just going to leave it like this and see. This is a little small computer fan. Again, both ends are 3D printed, and I just bolted the computer fan in there. I think I need a silicone mat actually. And that's just a little 12-volt fan. So this is going to essentially run, yeah, all day, all night, I think, at this point in time. And as I say, just keep all smells out and try and dehydrate it. I cut a hole in the side of the bus over here. You can see the wheel arch there. And if we pull on this little rope, we should pull the whole toilet tank out. Oh wait, I'm going to put that thing back. Okay, so that little flap needs to be open. Pull here, and the whole thing should come out. Well, there we are. Bang. So that's the toilet tank here. You can see it's kind of the shape that fits in that little gap there. And this is a little 3D printed piece that slides into that little crack under there. So the toilet's sitting on top there, and the solids will go through that further one there. This piece, where's my finger? That piece there. And then that's where the extractor fan is, that one there. So yeah, that lines up with this. So the solids will go into this bigger one here, and the extraction will go out there. And then, yeah, as I said, the theory is, well, this just plugs into there like that. Quite tricky with one hand. That's it. And in time, I'm going to create a little cover there. So that's the solids. That's about 14 liters, that tank. But again, apparently, if it's dehydrated and dried out, it'll actually last a long time. So yep, that's that. Oh, I forgot to add this little bit, that from this little fan it goes up into this cupboard, out here, I mean up there, and then out there. So that just goes onto the roof. In time I'll also 3D print a little cap that goes on top there on the outside to stop the rain coming in. And over here I've got another little extractor thing just to take steamy, showery, smelly, whatever thingies out of there. And this is another little 3D printed cap you can see from the outside. Let me show you that quickly. So yeah, that's the little 3D printed vent, I guess you could call it. I ran out of filament, of the clear filament, and started printing with black, as I think you can see. But yeah, I'm going to paint the whole thing with polyester top coat on the outside to protect it. And that's the one I did a while back for the fridge. So yeah, it's the same profile, this one's a bit shorter. I didn't print that middle section, you can see. Yeah. So this is what we have at the moment. Shower is in. I actually had my first shower in here this morning. A few little tweaks, but getting there. Showed you all of this earlier. And then this is the infamous toilet as it stands at the moment. Yeah, it was not enough, that angle, so there's been 2 versions since then. Essentially, yeah, I've been joking to friends of mine that I've been facing my shit literally and not just figuratively. In other words, there's all this shit that I've been facing. Well, clean at the moment, but you know where I'm going with this. And essentially, yeah, that first ramp I put in there wasn't quite enough, so I added a second ramp, and that wasn't quite enough, so now I added a third ramp. And you can see this is quite high, the back there, and it kind of shoots straight down and into the tank. So this actually seems to be working pretty well. There again is the urine diverter, and that's working quite well. The seat and all of the rest. And all I'm doing is I'm still figuring this out and perfecting the whole thing, but essentially I've got a mixture of dishwashing liquid and water, dishwashing liquid soap and water, because it's very slippery. You give it a few squirts in there and do your thing, and vop, it goes down. And if you really need to, I just give it a blast or 2 once in a while with this to help wash it down. But as I said, just once in a while, because again, the trick is to keep it as dry as possible. So yeah, that's kind of what we have at the moment. Things may change. Again, I might add a heater element into the tank itself in time, but I don't know if you can hear the little extraction fan, but that's essentially running all the time. And actually you generally don't smell anything at all. It really is working quite well. And again, yeah, that's sucking any moisture out. And yeah, this is the little cupboard. I've got the door for it, but I need to thickness some wood to make it a little trim and paint it all and put it all in, so that's not in yet. But yeah, that's the little cupboard, and I think that's it. So yeah, just to add that if one was to ever put this kind of a toilet in a different environment, I think the thing would be to have a tank straight underneath, so you don't need to bother with this whole like ramp angle mess thing. You just put the solids tank straight underneath here, so that would go straight down into that, and then the urine diverter, yeah, maybe a little tank to the front of that. But yeah, we'll see. For now, this is it. I'm over it, and want to get on with other parts of my life. And enough cockpraat for now. Ciao for now.